Learn Persian with Chai and Conversation, Lesson 6. Hello and welcome to Learn Persian with Chai and Conversation, the podcast for anyone looking to learn conversational Persian. My name is Layla and I'll be your teacher for the course.
And my name is Matt, and I will be learning Persian along with you.
Chai and Conversation will teach you conversational Persian in weekly lessons of about 15 minutes each.
If you know anything about Iranians, they don't do anything without first grabbing a cup of tea, or as they call it, chai.
So pour yourself a cup and join us in learning the Persian language. Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of Chai and Conversation.
By now you know that this is the one and only podcast made to teach conversational Persian to beginners.
We've been so delighted by all the positive feedback we've been receiving. Please continue sending us comments and suggestions. It really helps to inform the direction of the show.
And remember, the podcast is only one part of the learning process. Visit our website at chaiandconversation.com, with chai spelled C-H-A-I, where you will find tons of bonus materials to help with the learning process.
One of the most helpful of these is the PDF guide, which provides explanations of the words we learn in the podcast and spells them out for you phonetically in English. In addition, there's an enhanced podcast that provides flashcards on your screen for you to learn with.
All this and more can be found on our website, chaiandconversation.com.
So we'll be talking about this a bit more after the lesson. But for now, Matt, are you ready to begin the lesson?
Ready.
Great. Let's begin to learn Persian with Chai and Conversation. So last week, we learned the words for different members of the family, and we learned how to introduce your family members to others, as well as to introduce their names. This week, we'll be expanding on that by talking a bit more about families. Also, we're going to learn how to count to 10. So let's start off by doing a little revision of the vocabulary we learned last week. Matt, I'm going to say the word in English and see if you can come up with the Persian word. Give the listeners a moment to come up with the answer before giving your own answer. So first, brother.
Barodar.
Second, sister.
خواهر.
Great. Next we have mother.
مادر.
And how would you say father?
پدر.
That's right, پدر. And wife?
زن.
And finally, husband.
شوهر.
Okay, wonderful. And to say my brother or my father, how do you join words together? For example, let's say my brother.
برادر من.
Exactly. So مادر من, پدر من, etc. So if مادر من means my mother, what do you think مادر تو means?
Your mother.
Your mother, exactly. So how would you say your father?
پدر تو.
Perfect. And your brother?
برادر تو.
Your sister.
خواهر تو.
And one more, your wife.
زن تو.
Great. Again, we join the words together by using the e sound. So زن من, شوهر من, زن تو, شوهر تو. As you know, to is the informal you. So زن تو or شوهر تو would be the informal way of saying your wife or your husband. If you're talking to someone with whom you need to use the formal form, you would use the formal you. And you would simply say زن شما.
زن شما.
And this can be used for any of the words, such as برادر شما, خواهر شما, etc. Now we're going to learn a couple of other words that are linked to family, words that specifically children would say. We learned the words for mother and father, مادر and پدر, but kids are more likely to use the words مامان,
مامان
and بابا.
بابا
مامان تو
مامان تو
and بابای تو.
بابای تو.
So on بابای تو, notice that because baba ends in a vowel, we add the ye sound to join it to to instead of e. So بابای تو.
بابای تو.
مامان من
مامان من.
بابای من.
بابای من.
Exactly. Now we're going to learn I have as in I have a sister. I have in Persian is دارم. Now in the phrase I have a sister, there's a word that we haven't covered yet, and that would be the word for a. In Persian, a gets translated as one. Ye is a shortened word for the word yek, which means one. So you would say من یه خواهر دارم.
من یه خواهر دارم.
Now you could use the complete word for one, which is یک. من یک خواهر دارم. But this means more specifically, I have one sister. When you say من یه خواهر دارم, it's more similar to the English phrase, I have a sister. So listeners, then how would you say, I have a brother? Matt?
من یه برادر دارم.
So that's all very well if you have one sister, one brother, one son, or one daughter, but it is likely that you have more siblings or children, or meet people who have more. So if you have more, you're going to need to learn some numbers. And we are going to learn how to count to 10 in this lesson, and we're going to set this to some rhythm. So first, let's learn 1 through 4. یک, دو, سه, چهار. So Matt, repeat after me. یک, دو, سه, چهار.
یک، دو، سه، چهار.
یک, دو, سه, چهار.
یک، دو، سه، چهار.
یک, دو, سه, چهار.
یک، دو، سه، چهار.
Okay, time to move on to 5 through 8. پنج, شیش, هفت, هشت. So Matt, repeat after me. پنج, شیش, هفت, هشت.
پنج، شیش، هفت، هشت.
پنج, شیش, هفت, هشت.
پنج، شیش، هفت، هشت.
پنج, شیش, هفت, هشت.
پنج، شیش، هفت، هشت.
Great, now let's learn 9 and 10. No, ده. Now repeat after me. No, ده.
نو، ده.
No, ده.
نو، ده.
Great, and now let's put it all together. یک, دو, سه, چهار, پنج, شیش, هفت, هشت, نو, ده.
یک، دو، سه، چهار، پنج، شیش، هفت، هشت، نو، ده.
یک, دو, سه, 4 5 6 7 8 9 10
1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10.
And now that you know all the numbers, let's try applying them to talking about our families. In addition to not having to differentiate between masculine and feminine, another wonderful thing about Persian is that there is no differentiation between a sentence about singular things and a sentence about plural things. So for example, to say I have a brother, you say Man ye barodar daram. And to say I have 2 brothers, you simply change this to Man do barodar daram.
من 2 برادر دارم.
So now to say I have 2 sisters, we say Man do خواهر دارم.
من 2 خواهر دارم.
Now let's say you want to introduce their names. You have to change the sentence slightly. If you have 1 sister and you want to say her name, you say من یه خواهر دارم. اسمش سارا هست. If you have 2 sisters and you want to say their names, you say من 2 خواهر دارم. اسمشون سارا و مریم هست.
من 2 خواهر دارم. اسمشون سارا و مریم هست.
Almost. Let's try that second part again. اسمشون سارا و مریم هست.
اسمشون سارا و مریم هست.
So let's try putting that all together. من 2 خواهر دارم. اسمشون سارا و مریم هست.
من 2 خواهر دارم. اسمشون سارا و مریم هست.
And now we're going to try something a little bit different. We're going to have a special guest on the program. If you've been listening to the lesson so far, with the vocabulary we've learned, you should be able to make out who the special guest is. We're going to access her via telephone. Here we go.
الو.
سلام.
سلام.
اسم شما چیه؟
من فرزانه هستم.
شما کی هستید؟
من مادر تو هستم.
سلام مامان. بله، شما مادر من هستید و من دختر شما هستم. So Matt, can you try to work out that conversation? Who are we talking to?
Your mother, فرزانه.
Exactly. So I asked, اسم شما چیه? And she answered,
من فرزانه هستم.
which means,
I am فرزانه, or my name is فرزانه.
so I asked, شما کی هستید? This means, who are you? And she answered,
من مادر تو هستم.
which means,
I am your mother.
exactly. And I answered, سلام مامان. بله، شما مادر من هستید و من دختر شما هستم. You know all these words, so what does that phrase mean?
Yes, you are my mother, and I am your daughter.
Exactly. And notice that she used the informal you, while I addressed her with the formal you out of a sign of respect. Well, merci, maman.
خواهش میکنم. I hope you're enjoying learning Persian and I will join you again soon.
My mother will be joining us in later podcasts, I'm sure, and we will be delighted to have her again. And that concludes the Lesson 6 podcast.
We hope you enjoyed the show.
Ideally, you can listen to this podcast over and over again until you learn all the vocabulary.
And as we mentioned before, one of the most helpful things is to have the words in phonetic English form so that you can follow along and make sure you understand the pronunciation completely.
The words are provided spelled out both on the PDF guides and as flashcards on the Enhanced podcast, both part of the bonus materials package provided with each lesson. These are provided for a very nominal fee to cover the cost of development and distribution.
We'd appreciate your support by purchasing these materials from our website at chaiandconversation.com.
And that's it for the show today. Until next time, Khuda Hafiz from Layla.
And ta bat from Matt.